Hello everyone and welcome to another video of mine. In today's video, we are going to be taking a look at Resident Evil Village. So this is technically Resident Evil 8, but it's also called Resident Evil Village, just Village, right? So there's no numbers attached to this one. Now, as soon as you start the game, you have an option of taking a quick recap as to what happened before the events of this particular game, because this is a follow-up or a direct sequel to Resident Evil 7. So that's quite a good thing to have. I mean, a recap. So even if you have not played the last game, you are not missing out on much. I mean, it kind of brings you up to speed with what exactly happened. So even if you play this game as a standalone, I think you should be good. However, it is recommended that you do play the first game, the prequel to this one, which is Resident Evil 7. Now, as far as Resident Evil 7 itself goes, it was very different to the Resident Evil games that came before, because Resident Evil, right up to Resident Evil 6, was mostly a third-person shooter or a third-person action-adventure shooter. But this one was more like a first-person shooter. And when I say action-adventure, of course, there are action-adventure elements in all these games, but the Resident Evil series is always known for its survival horror. And that's what it is. And that's no different to, the 6 games that came before 7. So 7 and 8, they are in a whole different, you could say, zone of its own in terms of the gameplay dynamics, because they happen to be in the first-person perspective. So we finally get into the game after that recap, and here you have the options screen. So as soon as you get into options, I'm just going to head over to display. And when you head over to display, you will notice that there are actually 2 options. All right. So one is where you can turn the ray tracing off, and the other where you can actually turn the ray tracing on. So for this video, I'm going to turn the ray tracing on, and I'm going to play with ray tracing on. I know it's not recommended, and I'm going to tell you, my experience as to why it's not recommended to turn the ray tracing on your Series S and play. But hey, I wanted to make this video with the ray tracing setting turned on. So that's exactly what we're doing. So there are a few other settings that you can play around with. And I just want to see if there is a, okay. Oh, we're pretty much set. So when you click on that game, of course, if you know my channel, then I always select the casual or the easy difficulty level. And that's the case with this one as well.
Long ago, a young girl went with her mother to pick berries for her father, who was hard at work. But the forest greeted them with a dark, cold silence, the bushes empty.
Starts with a story.
Determined to find the berries, the rascal broke free from Mother's grasp and vanished into the trees. Mother's worried cries faded fast as the girl ran on, over vine and under branch, and into the forest deep.
The cutscene looks very good, very sharp.
Mother's scary bedtime tales, and her throat became bone
Wow.
dry. Then the Bat Lord appeared. He greeted her warmly and bit his own wing. "Come, child, quench your thirst," he said. So she drank the thick, dark blood and smiled with joy.
Yeah, this looks really good, I must tell you. In terms of the sharpness, it's fabulous. And this is the Series S. I can only imagine how this will actually look on the Series X. Or even on the PlayStation 5.
"Come, child, warm yourself," he coaxed. So she clothed herself and smiled.
In case you're wondering, what is the display resolution of this game? As far as the Series S goes, it's 1440p. That's what you get on the Series S. Yes, 1440p. Which is really good.
Appeared and offered one of his many fins. "Come, child, eat your fill." So the girl ate.
So on the Series S, you've got 1440p, but on your PlayStation 5 and on your Xbox Series X, you actually get an option of, not an option basically, this game runs at 4K. Man, this game looks good. It really looks good. I mean, it's beautiful. Just look at it. The 1440p really shines through.
Grew angry and summoned the other monsters.
Oh,
Terror filled the girl's heart as the wild wind rose around the beasts. Suddenly, a witch appeared, dark yet regal.
wow. So, as far as the resolution goes, I'm very happy. And I'm playing this on my 4K television, the Samsung AU9070, which is a 43-inch television. I'm sitting at a distance of around 7 to 8 feet, somewhere between that.
Inside a mirror. There.
Man, why on earth would you want to read a story like that for a little child?
Creepy story. She's only 6 months old.
Exactly. That's exactly what I told.
It was traditional. A local tale.
But yeah, I guess they had to do it because it's a video game at the end of the
She
day.
doesn't understand it.
I would never ever read this kind of a story to a child.
Didn't have to deal with anything,
Never.
remember?
There's nothing
Period.
wrong with my memory. You're just being paranoid.
It's not. Never mind. I'm sorry. But I'm not paranoid. I'm just cautious.
Then, go cautiously take your daughter to bed.
All right.
I'll finish
Very
dinner.
nice. The graphics look really good. I mean, the child, the animation on the child and the design.
It's okay, Rose.
Oh, it looks really
Doesn't have
good.
to remember it.
It's so sharp. I can, again, only imagine how good this would look on a PS5 or on an Series X.
Nothing.
This is the Series S with 1440p resolution. Now, since I've got the ray tracing on, that restricts the frame rates to run at 30 FPS. So the gameplay that you're gonna watch on YouTube, I'm gonna simulate it to 60 FPS. Don't think that you actually get 60 FPS on the ray tracing mode. On the Xbox Series S, it's 1440p
Don't
at
get too close
30
to me.
FPS if you've got the ray tracing turned on. That's what you're seeing. But again, I would like to mention for the sake of the video that I'm going to simulate it to 60 FPS while I upload this on YouTube. Now, speaking of 60 FPS, you do have an option of turning the ray tracing off. And by turning the ray tracing off, you get a solid 60 FPS on your Xbox Series S. So even on the Series S, you get 60 FPS on a game like this. Now, when I say a game like this, I mean in terms of the visual fidelity,
It's like I said,
this
you know,
game is
that book's too
incredibly beautiful. I mean, the level design, I'm sure you can say by taking a look at, on screen, that every tiny little corner of this game has been
love this
thought
place
after
so much.
properly. I mean, there's such a lot of detail in everything. Take a look at that sweater that you've got on the child, the button, the lamp or whatever, the light, even the walls, the
Almost
texture on the wall, the light. And let me tell you, the ray traced lighting is working beautifully. I mean, it's just awesome. And so far it's running really well.
Don't you worry.
I mean, 30 FPS is 30 FPS.
Daddy won't let those
I
weird
don't
things
think, I'm gonna have much of a frame drop in an environment like this because there's not much happening. It's just you moving around, and there are no enemy characters, no action happening. So in an environment like this, the 30 FPS stands strong. But when you do get into a heated battle or an action environment, it'd be interesting to see how this performs
It's fine.
because from what I see on screen, this game can be very taxing on the Xbox Series S.
It's not paranoia if they're really out to get you.
Okay, now let me give you a little bit of information about the game. But before I start the game, all right, and I mean start the game, meaning start talking about the game a little more, I would just like to mention a few points. The first thing, this is not a technical review. I'm not a technical person, so kindly do not expect a technical analysis of these
I wish I could
games.
stay like this
Now, the
forever.
footage of this game that you're watching right now, it's been taken off the Xbox Series S. The HDR setting has been turned off on the console. And I would specifically like to mention that these games may look very different in person. And that may be due to the different TV or monitor models that we use, and even the HDR settings that we have done on them. Or some people like to turn it off, like I did with this particular footage. And some people would like to turn it on and then tweak the HDR settings as well. So for this video, for this footage, the HDR setting was off. Lastly, in case you're wondering, why do I generally not put out Xbox Series X content? Well, hey, I don't have a Series X, I just have a Series S. So apart from that, I even have a PlayStation 5. And hey, by the way, let me know if you would be interested to see a comparison video of Resident Evil Village on the Series S versus PlayStation 5. Now, the reason why I chose to go along with the PS5 in addition to the Series S is because I wanted the best, not exactly the best, but I wanted to feel both the platforms and the current gen exclusives that come out on both the Xbox and the PlayStation 5. And I think this is quite a good combo to have, PS5 and the Xbox Series S. The Series S, the only place where it actually takes a big hit is the storage and the resolution. These are two areas where it actually takes a hit. In terms of performance, I've always mentioned in all my videos, the Xbox Series S was geared towards giving you that performance. So as far as performance goes, you'll not be disappointed, because on most of the games that I have played on this, and I've played quite a lot of them, you can check it out on my channel as well. In terms of performance, I was thoroughly satisfied. It never let me down. In terms of the resolution, hey, it's a different story because, like I said, it is geared towards giving you that optimum performance, but not the optimum resolution. If you need both resolution and performance, then it's the premium consoles that you need to go for, the PS5 or the Xbox Series X.
It happened so long ago.
Now, in case you are wondering, why do I make these videos? Well, I like to share my personal opinion about these videos, about these games. And I would also like to find out your thoughts and your opinion about these games. So do let me know in the comment section. And hopefully we can build a community where we can talk about these games that we're also fond of, and especially even the Xbox Series S, because I still believe that it's a great value for money device, and the price to value ratio that you get on the Xbox Series S is simply phenomenal.
Chris? What the hell? Sorry, Ethan.
Hey bro, what the hell, Chris?
What?
So this is quite a shocker. So the intrigue is there, the curiosity. Why on earth would you save us in the first place in the last game? And if you haven't played the first game, I'm just giving away spoilers. And now, at the start of this game, Resident Evil Village, you take away my wife from me. I mean, by killing her right in front of me. That is some next level stuff.
No.
Okay, so this game has started off pretty interestingly, and it kind of sets up the story of this game. Speaking of the story, I do want to talk about the game. Now, in terms of the game, let me just give you a little bit of information. And I'd be shocked, first of all, if you haven't heard of Resident Evil Village. But for those of you who are new to gaming, who have just bought an Xbox Series S, or who have just bought their first consoles, now, Resident Evil Village, well, it's a game which came out in 2021. Now, it's an action adventure survival horror game in the first person mode. So this is a first person game. Now, made by Capcom, and it is a direct sequel to Resident Evil 7, Biohazard, which came out in 2017. Now, as the protagonist of the game, you are Ethan Winters. So that's your name. Now, he's searching for his now kidnapped daughter. All right. So you just saw that his daughter, whose name is Rose, was just taken by Chris Redfield, who was also a good guy.
What are you talking
And
about?
that's how the game starts. So your daughter has been taken away by the man who saved you in the first place. And now you've got to find out, why did he take your daughter and where has he taken her? Is she even alive? So basically, you set out to find your daughter and the mystery behind her kidnapping, you could say. So, in terms of the setting, it's set in a village. I mean, the name gives it away. And it's set directly after the events of Resident Evil 7. Now, the opening sequence, as you saw, you've been living with your wife, you even have a child now, Rose, 6 months old,
What are you talking
taken away by Chris
Where's
Redfield.
Chris Redfield?
Your wife has now been murdered by Chris Redfield. And now you kind of find out that, well, the vehicle
What the hell happened?
that was carrying you or that you were traveling in, it's met with an accident. And now you're out in the wilderness, you could say. So this is where your story starts after the first cutscene, and now you have gameplay elements that you can get into, meaning that you have more to see or look around and kind of do apart from that house that you were in, because it was like a very limited kind of level. So it's got an open world setting, but I wouldn't exactly call the Resident Evil games open world, because if you've played games like Assassin's Creed, for instance, now that's truly an open world game. Now, Resident Evil games, they have always had a linear structure when it comes to their levels and even their level designs, etc. It kind of guides you on your path. So, yes, I mean, there are elements of exploration. You've got to find loot chests, um, find weapons, find ammunition, find medicines, find objects, etc. All of that, it's there in these Resident Evil games, but the structure is very linear as opposed to a game like Assassin's Creed, for instance. So now you're in this wilderness, and it's darkness all around. Now I don't know how this footage would finally look, uh, but I have noticed that when it comes to Xbox Series S and the color reproduction, even with the HDR turned off, it's been solid. I mean, I've been very happy with the color reproduction on my Series S. And while I play this on my 4K television, even though this is 1440p, the television itself upscales your image, and you get like an upscaled 4K to look at while you're playing this. And let me tell you that that makes an impact. That definitely has a positive impact. Of course, it's not as good as native 4K that you'd be getting on the PS5 and on the Xbox Series X. But hey, if you've got a 4K television, then you will enjoy the upscaled 4K. But natively, this game is running at 1440p on the Xbox Series S. I'm just mentioning that so that we all get to know what kind of resolution are we getting on the Series S. It's quite a dark level, but like I told you, I mean, you're always constantly led on a linear kind of a pathway. So you can see like uh, a path that you can actually follow here. So you can't exactly get lost, is what I mean to say. Now we are already 20 minutes into the game, almost 20 minutes into the game or this gameplay. And it, it it looks very good. I mean, up close, the graphics look incredibly sharp. I mean, 1440p looks really, really good here. I must tell you that. So here you have some options. I mean, it's your typical standard Resident Evil experience, and I mean that in a good way. I mean, if you've played any other Resident Evil games, then you would know exactly what I'm talking about. But as far as Resident Evil games go, I really enjoyed Resident Evil 2, and Resident Evil 5 actually was very good as well. I haven't played Resident Evil 3, and I'm embarrassed to say this, but I haven't played Resident Evil 4 as well. I know it's a critically acclaimed game, but I haven't played this Resident Evil 4 yet. I did play Resident Evil 6, did not like it that much, to be honest. I think Resident Evil 2 is really fantastic. Out of all the Resident Evil games that I played 2, I played 5, and then I played 6 out of the entire series. And I think 2 was the best, or rather is the best. And followed by 5. 5 was also really good. And then 6 was not that good. I think, having too many storylines or plot lines in the game, it kind of took away from the experience. I mean, they did try something different in Resident Evil 6, but I personally think it did not work. It didn't work in its favor. Here, they've gone back to just one plot line, the main plot line of Ethan, the protagonist of this game. And so, as far as the narrative goes, it's pretty straightforward. No complications, no multiple plot lines running side by side, etc. It's quite good. I mean, I like this. Like they say, too many cooks spoil the broth, and I think that's what happened with Resident Evil 6. But hey, that's just my take on it. I mean, it's my personal opinion. Of course, some people may actually like that kind of an approach where you have multiple plot lines, because hey, for the game price, you get to play so many stories. So from that perspective, yes, maybe people may have an opinion that it gives you more than your money's worth. But personally, I didn't enjoy it that much. Now this game, it has me hooked. It's a little creepy as well, man. I mean, the entire setting is very, very creepy. When you play these horror games in the first person mode, it just feels a little more creepier. I think horror games, they're just more immersive in the first person mode. That's my personal opinion. And by the way, I'm no fan of first person shooters, by the way. I generally like third person action adventure games. So I hardly play first person shooters. So if a person who hardly plays first person shooter games, I mean, if there's a comment like that that's coming from me, then you know that this game is doing something right. Hey, I'm no top-notch gamer or something like that. I'm just like any regular person who's trying to game. So I'm a casual gamer, not a professional gamer. But most of us are just casual gamers with all the work that we have to do. I don't think we can dedicate all our time to gaming. After all, we have to work, we have to run our businesses. Man, this game looks beautiful. Wow. And I can't believe that I'm getting this kind of visual fidelity on my Xbox Series S. It is absolutely incredible. Now, I don't know if the footage will be able to capture a few slowdowns in the frame rate performance. So what I mean is, with the ray tracing turned on, you will definitely notice some frame drops on this game. It's pretty to look at, by the way. I mean, it's phenomenal. The game, as far as the visual fidelity goes on the Xbox Series S, it's jaw-dropping because you're getting this on the Series S, a $300 console. And that is giving you ray tracing. Look at that ray traced lighting. I mean, it is simply out of this world. And the reason, why I said jaw dropping is because, again, $300, that's what you're paying for this console. I was just wanting to check if you can toggle between ray tracing and the non-ray tracing modes, but unfortunately you cannot. So if you want to turn the ray tracing off, the only way for you to do that is to restart the game, which in my personal opinion takes away from that experience, I mean, and plus it's just something that eats away your time. So I don't like that, like for instance, when I was playing Watch Dogs Legion, I had an option of toggling between the performance mode and the quality mode. So I didn't have to restart the game, but yeah, I do have to restart the game. So that takes away from the experience a bit. But I can understand, because what you are getting is outstanding. I mean, in terms of the visual quality, in terms of the resolution, everything, even in 1440p. And trust me when I say this, the difference between 1080p and 1440p is a big difference. But the difference between 1440p and 4K is comparatively not as great as that of 1080p and 1440p. So if you've got any game that runs at 1440p and if you are playing it on a 4K television, then you are going to be pleasantly surprised, even with the Xbox Series S. So, man, as far as the resolution goes, I'm quite happy with what I'm getting. But as far as the frame rates go, not so much, because I've not even entered areas where there are a lot of enemies, and I've already noticed a few frame drops. I don't know if the footage was able to capture that or not, but for instance, when I was sliding down, I did notice frame drops there. So, wow, man, this game looks beautiful. Incredible, incredible, absolutely incredible. Wow. So this particular video is only with ray tracing. Now, if you want me to make another video, where I turn the ray tracing off and then play this game, I can do that as well. Because when I turn the ray tracing off, the game, according to Capcom, is supposed to run at 45 FPS, but I think it actually runs at 60 FPS with the ray tracing turned off. And I've always told that when it comes to shooting games, when it comes to car races, etc., I mean, these type of games, you will definitely appreciate the higher frame rates, the 60 FPS that is. I mean, just look at this game. It is the entire design of this game is beautiful. It has a very Transylvanian kind of a feel to it. So you'd feel like you are in this world of Castlevania. It makes you feel like that. So, hey, if you ever make a vampire game or a Dracula game, I think Capcom can do a really good job at that, because this world that they're giving us in Resident Evil Village, it is very Transylvanian, you could say. It's amazing. I mean, it's incredible. Now, again, the PS5 and the Xbox Series X can do this at 4K 60, but on the Series S, it's 1440p at 30 FPS with the ray tracing turned on. I mean, the lighting, just look at that lighting. It's incredible. Ray traced lighting is absolutely gorgeous. I mean, the God rays and everything in this. So the ray tracing mode basically is your performance mode. Sorry, is your quality mode on your Resident Evil Village. I don't know why I said performance. It's your quality mode on the Resident Evil Village. And when you turn it off, it's basically a performance mode. Again, that lighting, the illumination around that lamp, the light coming in from that window.
Did they just run out of the house?
It's just incredible. I mean, wow, that was creepy. I mean, just imagine yourself, sitting in a dark room with your earphones plugged in and nobody at home, and you're playing this game.
No, no.
Ooh.
Friendly.
Well, I believe that's it for this video, folks. Do let me know your thoughts and your comments about this particular game, Resident Evil Village. And let me know if there's any other game that you would want me to talk about. And let you know about the performance, or let you know about the resolution that we're getting on the Xbox Series S. Well, before I go, if you have really liked this video, if you like this type of content, then this is the type of videos that I make on my channel. So share it with your friends and family members if you believe they can also benefit from videos like this. And do hit that like button if you like the video, and also that subscribe button if you want to stay connected with my channel. And if you want to get notifications about my latest releases, then do hit that bell icon as well. Now, with that said, it's a wrap for this one. And I'll see you lovely folks in my next video. And until that time, I'd say take care, stay safe, happy gaming, and may God bless you all.